All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Real Ideal Gear live review, I guess live stream. I'm not sure how to say this. I haven't done a lot of these yet, so I have to get the phrasing down correctly. But we're going to do about an hour session today, just like we always have, and we've got a number of things to talk about. I think the variety for me is something that I really enjoy, and so that's something that we're gonna have a little bit more in this episode than in the past when it comes to topics. We also have a viewer EDC, which is actually pretty comprehensive. Johan, a guy who I have gotten to know through YouTube and comments and things like that, has sent a number of photos in. We're going to talk about those photos and some of the EDC things he has in there. Watches, of course. Today we're looking at Casio collections. What do you do when you're collecting Casios, and how do you handle it? So that's going to be our number one topic for watches today. And then we're going to get into a little bit of flashlights. I talked about that a little bit last time. I wanted to mention a few more things about it because I think there's actually a question. I need some help from the viewers out there on an EDC flashlight that I'm looking for. And I think I need to spread the net a little wider than just my own searching on the internet. So, and then last but not least is cold weather gear. It is December, and in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, we are in the winter season. So I'm in Western Montana, and this is something I grew up in Minnesota. Now I live in Western Montana. And so I grew up dealing with cold weather. In Minnesota, it was cold, damp weather. In Montana, in the Rocky Mountains, it is cool, dry weather. It's a drier air. For those of you that have lived in the mountains, you know what I'm talking about. And those of you that lived in the Midwest, upper Midwest especially, you know what I'm talking about when it comes down to that bone-chilling, cold, damp air. There's nothing quite like it. Matter of fact, I think it's worse. So anyway, we'll get through all those topics today. So let's start off with let's get our, where is it? Here we go. Let's get our slideshow going. So this is Johan, and he is out of South Africa. And this has really been an eye-opener for me. The number of viewers that are just across the globe, different languages, different cultures, different rules, regulations, laws, monetary systems, all kinds of cool things that I've gotten to just briefly skim across the surface with some viewers that through comments and or emails. I'm messaging a few people that I just think we got to get together and talk more deeply about a topic. And so we're beginning those stages here too. So, but when it comes down to this EDC, this is impressive. I am thoroughly impressed. Johan, he has a number of watches here. Let me pull up his email because he's going to describe. I'm not going to know all the information for all this. So we're going to start off with his watches. Oh, I've got this backwards from the email. So he's got, obviously the Casio. There's the Greyman. I love the Greyman on the left. So this is the top photo on the left-hand side. And Greyman, that's awesome. What is that one in the middle? We have a Citizen ProMaster on the right, which I love the Citizen ProMaster. I think that's a great, if you're looking for a dive watch that has, the 200 meters of water resistance, ISO certified, it's a diver's 200 meters. And that apostrophe S means that it goes through an ISO certification process. Qualifies for scuba diving. Just a great watch. I can't tell from here if that is a quartz or if that is, I think it says Eco Drive under the hand there. So I think that's a quartz Eco Drive. Let me check his email here. Yeah, I don't think I see it in here. I'm skimming. So if I miss it, I'm sorry, Johan. ProMaster. Yeah, it's quartz. which I think quartz is, boy, I'm warming more and more up to quartz for a lot of different situations because it's such a low maintenance kind of situation. And then there's the Hallmark Navigator, which I've never heard of that name before, but I love the look of it. It has the 24-hour bezel. I don't see a GMT hand on there unless it's underneath one of their hands, but I don't think that possible. Usually they stick out anyway. So you've got basically two ways of timing things, two time zones that you can set up here. Wow, that's neat. Day date, I like it. Rubber strap. It looks like Johan is into the rubber strap kind of a thing when it comes to watches, and so that's pretty cool. And then down in the lower picture, we have a Citizen, and what is the one in the middle? The one in the middle, it's a little bit fuzzy. Let me go back to I'm going to go to the cheat sheet. I'm trying not to use the cheat sheet, but I think I have to. It's a Casio Marlin. Okay, yeah, there's the Marlin. I can see the Marlin emblem in there. Casio Marlin. It looks like it's got what is that, day date functions in there as well. Yeah, timing bezel on there. Really neat. I'm always curious about lume. I mean, this is one of the things. Maybe I should say this on the next round of photos that come in. But share with me a lume shot of your watch along with a daytime shot, because it's such a unique personality that some of these watches have. I say personality, it's not personality. It's a unique display or design that these watches have when you light them up, and you get to see what's actually lit up as well. Because I have one watch, and it's an AliExpress watch, but it's I'm trying to think of it. It's an iPose watch. But when you lume it up, it actually has what appears to be a square shape on the inside of the dial, which is, you don't pick up on that during the daylight. But at night, when you hit the lume and you turn the lights out, it's like, oh, that's arranged in a square, on one corner. So kind of an interesting thing. So really cool. And then we've got, there's a Casio. Now this Casio, when he shared this photo with me, I went right to the internet trying to find out where this is. And 200 meters of water resistance. Let me see here. He has the description. Let's see here. Casio Frogman. Yeah. Okay. He talks a little bit about the Frogman. I've never seen the Frogman before like that. And that looks old school. When I say old school, it's at least 15 to 20 years old, probably more like 20 years old. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. But that Casio looks outstanding. Yeah, looks like it's got all the major functions in there. Just a great, high water resistance, 200-meter Casio. Illuminator, so it's probably got a pretty good light in there. Nice. Yeah. So I love that. Nice watches. Now, on the far left is the Through Night, and this is the flashlight. This is his EDC flashlight, and I got to tell you, I think this is about the size of a AAA battery as far as the length goes. We're going to go to the next slide here, and you're going to see that there it is next to his canvas wallet. Now, inside the canvas wallet is kind of your equivalent to a Bic lighter, I'm assuming. Now, this is where we're crossing continents here, so I don't know if that's actually about the same size as a Bic lighter. I don't know if they sell Bic lighters in South Africa, but yeah, it looks like it might be in that size range. But the Through Night, BSSW1. I love the double clip, the two-way clip on there. So you can put it on a cap, you can put it in a pocket. You can have that flashlight arranged in obviously two opposite directions. So that's really cool. And I believe that is also magnetic. Let me check the notes on here. I think he has a magnetic tail cap on here. That's another, I think that was a second email. Let me pull that up. There we go. Oh, I can't pull it up. Yeah, but I think it might be magnetic. I'm sorry if I'm messing that up, Johan, but go back one here. Cool flashlight. One of the things about EDC flashlights, we'll talk about more of this later. Size is very important, and the flashlights being made today with the high power, the high output lithium-ion batteries, size is not the huge restriction that it used to be. 15, 20 years ago, you have a flashlight that size of like say a AAA battery, and you had the nickel cadmium batteries. Like, I can't hardly say the name, but they were such bad rechargeable batteries. They had a memory, so if you didn't charge them a certain way, they would deteriorate even faster. But these lithium ion batteries today they have high output lithium ion batteries that can run these very bright LED cells or LED elements, diodes. I'm not sure exactly the term for it, but yeah, this is a different world that we're living in, and I really like the size of that. So he's got this canvas wallet. This is made by his friend, and then we've got, of course, the Honey Badger knife. Now, two things about this Honey Badger knife that stuck out to me, Johan, you've got a bottle opener at the top, and then you've got a straight edge blade on the bottom. And those are two things that I just don't normally have on my knife, with the exception of my Swiss Army knife. Okay, the Swiss Army knife is going to have that. But on just a regular, single blade, typical knife, they throw a bottle opener on there. I think that's ingenious. I may be slow to the take up on this, but that is a great idea. Now, the straight edge blade that's one that I don't have a lot of experience with when it comes down to a blade like this. So I know you can puncture things a lot easier, have more of a sharp point on the end of the knife. I tend to have more of a belly on my knives. I don't know why. I just prefer it. I think you can do more precision cutting on the tip of the knife obviously with a straight edge like that. But I just like a knife with a little bit more belly. But this is so unique. You had the hexagon texturing on the handle, easy access. It looks like it's a liner lock. And I'm going to pull up my phone fell asleep here. So yeah, it's there we go. It's a cool looking knife. For functional purposes, the EDC part of this, I think it's great. You can puncture things. You can obviously slice. You've got a controlled tip for fine cutting on the very end of the knife blade. And the size of the knife looks like it's just right around that, hand width size for most guys is what I'm gathering on this. So to me, that looks like a great everyday carry knife. And here are some of his other knives that he carries every day. I listed some names next to him. One is a custom knife there, the second from the top, which is also a frame lock. Yeah, this is very cool. I think do I have the friction folder and the frame lock backwards? I thought I had them in the right order, because I'm beginning to think those are backwards, because that looks like a custom knife on the top. And I think that's with obviously a frame lock in the second to the top, but I just started typing, so I apologize. But anyway, this is a great selection of knives. Now, some of the things I'm looking at, Axis lock, it's a great locking system. I carried a Benchmade Emissary for a long time, probably 5 years straight. That was the only knife that I carried in my pocket. Love the Axis lock. Now, that was also an assist open. So when you hit that thumb stud, it just jumped open. Wasn't an automatic. It had a little spring assist in there. So for those of you that are looking for, that's not automatic. It's an assisted opening. But it just jumped open. The Axis lock, I think, is a pretty good lock. Now, I've heard some people kind of ding the Axis lock recently, and I don't know. I have never had an issue with an Axis lock, and Benchmade makes good stuff too. So maybe it's more of other brands that are doing Axis type locks. And there's a lot of them doing it now because that patent has expired, and it seems like a lot of companies are picking up on it and calling it all kinds of different names too. But blade design, the pickled steel Joker, the cleaver style blade. Now, I have gotten into that. I've got a CJRB Krag. Yeah, it's a CJRB Krag, which has kind of that cleaver style blade, or was it a sheep's foot type blade? I'm not exactly sure what the formal name of the blade is, but you get the idea. And I don't know, that size blade just, I don't know, it seems like it cuts better when you're slicing things, because you have more of the blade directing whatever you're cutting, whatever you're slicing. So you have a thinner blade, as far as like from the bottom of the blade to the top of the blade. If you have something that's thinner like that, it wanders through material as you're cutting through it. So I really like that, because it really gives you a good, steady, straight cut through material, especially softer material. If you're doing food prep or something like that, obviously that's going to be helpful if you're really into making a really cool looking meal while you're out on the run. But the second from the top, and this is maybe the Kershaw, I may have mixed this up. I love the shape of that blade. Drop points, I do like drop points, but I think I like clip points a little bit better. And I think if I remember my knife blade styles, clip point has a little more of an upturn on the tip of the blade, where a clip point noses down a little bit, or clip point comes up and a drop point kind of noses down a little bit on the tip. So great selection of EDC knives. I like it a lot. As a matter of fact, I think all of these blade types are blades that I carry as well. So great minds think alike, as always. All right. So if you have any other photos, if you're out there watching this, submit photos to realidealgear.com or at gmail.com. realidealgear@gmail.com. Photos horizontal, like landscape. Don't do portrait style. Do landscape style. If you're doing a watch, I highly encourage you to submit 2 photos, one daytime and one lume or light. If you have a light on your watch too, if it's a digital or something like that, because it really helps to see again what it looks like the other half of the day or the other third of the day when the sun goes down. So realidealgear@gmail.com. I usually get about one a month, and I'm anticipating it's gonna get a little slower here over the holidays. So we may not have anything for January. But if you're of the mindset, I would love to have it. Love to get your feelings, your ideas on the email back to me so I can share those with everybody. And if you jump online while I'm doing the sharing, you can comment directly and we can go from there too. So the next one is the end of January. Boy, I want to say it's like the late 20s as far as the date goes. If you go to realidealgear.com, I have a live stream tab, and the next one is already, as far as the date and the tentative schedule is already up. So, and then I hyperlink the old ones. So yeah, submit the photos. It'd be great. I think it's fun. I think it's really an eye-opening experience, especially, and Johan, thank you very much, because I get to see what is out there in other parts of the world. Pickled steel, I've never heard of that. I'm not even sure if that's an American sourced company, like if we can even source that knife here in the United States. I just never heard of it, so maybe naive in that. But great photos. Thank you very much. I think we're good. Now, on to the main event, which is collecting Casios. All right, so I'm going to give a brief. Some of you that have been around the block with me a few times know the Casio that I have had the longest as far as the style goes is the Pathfinder. This is the PRW 6600Y. Okay. It's not this particular watch. My youngest son actually has the watch that I bought. Man, I want to say it's right around 2000, 2002, somewhere in there. I found a triple sensor Pathfinder. Hey, Chris, how's it going, man? Found a triple sensor, and I had it for more than a decade. I think it's close to 20 years now. Now he has it. I've given it to him, and he wears it off and on. But they are unbelievable watches. So I've had a Casio, and I had 2 of them before that, back in the early, I want to say it was the early 90s, maybe the mid 90s. And I didn't particularly care for the earlier models because they were so tall off the wrist. The one that I purchased that has been around for over a decade and a half is one that, and I don't have a photo of it here, but it was a titanium slim model. And that was, it's like, I can't stand a watch that is super tall on the wrist. If there's any way I can get them shorter or, lower profile on the wrist, I go for it. And so I did with that watch. I paid a lot of money for it, and I hung on to it for, like I said, for over 15 years. And then I finally was like, I got to update it. Plus, I wanted to try the Ani-Digi setup, and that's what this one is, obviously. So it's just easier to read the time than the digital side. So I have had a Casio in my possession, I think, since the early 90s. I know I had them as a kid. The F91W, I just really can't stand that model, but it's a legend. I get it. Legends, they are there for a reason. They're popular. They sell a lot of them. And I get it. It's small. It's extremely lightweight. I had the best reason I saw on a comment when I did the review on this for having an F91 is to have it as an alarm clock when you're traveling. And I actually think that's a great idea because I just have a really hard time using this watch. The light is terrible. Everything about it is just not up to what I want to have. Oh yeah, the PAW. You got it in 2011. Okay, so Chris is putting a note on here. The PAW 1300T, still going strong in 2011. Yeah, that was because they don't make that anymore. The PAW 1300T. The T stands for the titanium, so it's a titanium case and titanium bracelet. And it was also this thin version of the Pathfinder. That was kind of the thing, was it was thinner and it was titanium. And yeah, 2011. Okay. Yeah. See, I want to say I purchased it like maybe 5 years before that. I don't remember when I purchased it. Um, but I had it forever, to the point where there were plastic spacers between the bracelet and the lugs, and those broke out. So the bracelet kind of slid back and forth on the, I don't even think it's a spring bar, but we'll call it a spring bar. It slid back and forth on there, and it was tough as nails. Tough solar, atomic timekeeping. I didn't do anything to the watch. It adjusted time whenever the daylight savings time kicked in. I woke up the next morning, it was already adjusted. It was as good as any smartphone out there when it came down to knowing what the time was easily. And I didn't have to plug anything in. It was awesome. And that's one of the things why I keep going back to that Casio Pathfinder. But this isn't just about the Pathfinder. This is about Casios in general. And so I have a photo up here of a number of them. As a matter of fact, I picked up a few more. Oh, my wife, I don't think she watches this. But anyway, let's see here. I've got this one. I'm looking at the screen up here. Oh, this one never made it on there. All right. I got a few more. I got just going to throw up in front of the screen here. Oh, yeah, this one's not on there. All right. And yeah, so for those of you that are looking into the Casio world, this is what happens to you. You lose track of the Casios that you have. Yeah, Chris, I hear you. Yeah, it's yeah, using the atomic timekeeping to set other watches. It's wonderful for timekeeping purposes. Like it's awesome. You never have to worry about the time. It's always the most accurate time out there. It's more accurate than any car, the clock inside of a car. I would trust that more than the cell phone, if you ask me. And part of it is because I didn't have to plug it in. So with you on that one, Chris. So I got a few more here. Let's see here. We got that one. Those are already up there. Those are up. Oh yeah, this one. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this one. Where's this one? That one's already up there. Oh, in the 91W. Okay, I'm just going to put this up here. So I picked this up, all right, the F91. Okay. I won't say much more about that. I'm not a huge fan at all. What is this one? This is the W217. Okay. I highly recommend it. Check out the review on that one. It's actually hasn't come out yet. I think it comes out here in a week. The F108 just came out today, the review. I really like this one. For $15, this far outdoes the F91. So these are watches that are not on that photo. Okay, so there's three. This one, I have to blame the Urban Gentry for this one. He just got me curious on it. The DW290. Okay. Other than the flashing light for the alarm and timer, I don't know why you'd buy it. I really don't. It's not. Doesn't hit my my standards, my expectations of what a Casio should do. So we'll leave it at that for now. The WV200, this is the Wave. This is an atomic timekeeping, also 200 meters of water resistance. Is that right? I think it's 200 meters of water resistance. That's a pretty good watch, except for the display. The display is it's small. The day and date. The day is kind of small too, but the date and month is near impossible to see. I think it's a waste of space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I got 3 more that are not on that photo. And this is the one I'm doing the review on this guy right now. All right, this is the HDC. What is it? 700. Okay, so this is atomic timekeeping. This is kind of the lower value version of the WV200, but this one has a data thing in it, and I got to tell you something. I'm beginning to like this one more than the other one. And I'm leading into something here. That's why I'm showing you these watches. You'll see here in a second. I picked up this guy right here. This is, oh shoot, I'm just not getting used to these numbers just yet. This is the HDC 700. Never mind. This is the HDC 700. Okay, this one was a challenger, and I've got some duels coming up here between these watches, between the AQS 810. These two watches, in my opinion, are very similar in a lot of aspects. The reason I picked up the HDC 700, this guy over here, is because the display. If you look at the size of the display for the digital readout, this was the knock on this guy right here, the AQS 810. All right, the green one. It's just too small. It's almost a waste of battery power because you can't really use it. You can't really see what's going on. This one was, this was the WV58R. Now, I'm going to go back to this guy right here. This is the Wave Scepter. Something I found out about this one, the 58R versus the 58A. The A has the electroluminescent light, and I think it's also wrist activated, and the R is not. Now, when I purchased this on Amazon, guess what one they advertised? Yeah, the 58A, and I thought I was getting something with a wrist activated light where you turn your wrist and the light comes on. Didn't happen. I got the 58R. I don't know what the difference is other than that. That might be the only difference between the two as far as the A and the R notation. All right, so that was the 700. We already talked about that guy. Now, G-Shocks. I'm not a huge fan of getting G-Shocks because I think most of the Casios out there are as tough as you really need them, and you don't really have to pay for the G-Shock. Now, this one I got on Amazon. This is the 350. I got this one for like $70. Something like that. It was on sale. They had a coupon or something on there. And so this has all the G-Shock things to it. And I'm not going to get into G-Shock too much in here, but the 200 meters of water resistance, they have a certain style of strap that goes around here that helps absorb shock. You have protection over that extends up above the crystal, typically a little bit, which is kind of odd because when you look at the GAB 2100, this one doesn't have much for protection at all when it comes to the crystal itself. So, yeah. So that's the G-Shock that you can use actually for a lot more situations than just, out in the wilderness humping it or doing work or something. But this guy right here has got my attention because vibration alert, flashing light for timer, for notification, that kind of thing. Pretty good display. I'm just got it today. It just showed up today, and I am very, very curious about that one. So we're going to do some more investigating into that. But the vibration alert is something that popped up, and this kind of goes into this where I'm going with this. And I call it the Casio Big Sky. It's the W736H. This has a vibration alert on there. I added a compass on here, so that doesn't come with it. But this is where, when you're looking at Casios, which I think I don't know, the thing you got to be careful of is getting into too many different models and not knowing exactly what you're looking for. Get to know the terms, like spend a little time. What does electroluminescent mean? What does illuminator mean? And spend a little time getting to know those terms, that you don't end up buying a bunch of watches that don't have the illumination that you're looking for, because the illumination can be very different. When you look at something like, here it is, the Big Sky. When you look at something like this and you hit the light button, I don't know if it's going to do it. Oh, light button's down below. There, you'll see it. You'll see how it changes the display to a kind of a negative display. I love that. I love the positive display. You notice I don't have any negative displays. I don't think I can handle a negative display. I just don't think the contrast is high enough. There's contrast, but I don't think it's high enough. But when you get something like this, you get the negative display on the light itself. The electroluminescence, let's see here. I got to turn off at least one of these lights. And this may be difficult to see too, because the computer is giving off a bunch of light as well. But you'll see a very even coating of light across the display. So you get electroluminescent. Now this is actually technically LED. Now, let's see if I find an electroluminescent. But electroluminescent is like there is no hotspot on the display. And then you get something like, let's see here. Where's a really good example? I think this guy will do it. This is the WS1600, the referee watch. I call it the zebra because zebras wear the black and white striped shirts, right? So you get, okay, this amber color, but you'll notice that there's going to be hot spots. I think it's down there in the corner. Yep. In this corner down here, you'll see two of them, two LEDs down there. So that's an LED display. LEDs tend to be a little bit more long lasting. So looking at illumination is one of the things. I think the other functions that are out there, you get something like this. I'll pull it up here just because it's a legend. The F91W, stopwatch, alarm, time, date. That's it. Okay. The light on this thing is a piece of crap. Okay, it lights up maybe half the display, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, you can't see the other half of the display. You know what hour it is, but you don't know what the time, the minute is. Okay, but you get those basic stopwatch alarm. That's the very basics of all Casios, as far as I've ever seen it. Now, analog watch, you're not obviously going to get that. Here's the MRW 200. Okay, it's just analog. It's quartz, great little watch. Okay, but then you can take a step up. Now, this is the Casio W800. I call it the Greyman. This is what Johan also had. I think he had a slightly different color case to his. But this has the stopwatch and the alarm. And actually, the alarm on this one, you can program it to a specific day. So now we're getting into kind of like, okay, so what do you want to do with your alarm, right? Do you want to have the ability to program a specific day? I love that feature. I think that is a great feature. I can have it go off every day. I can have it go off a specific month every day. I can have it go off a specific day of the month. And I can specifically pick a day of the month. So there's a bunch of options in a set like this. So spend some time looking at the specifications. So the alarm is kind of different. Timer. The timer is also something that's different. You have you can have recurring timers where the timer expires, beep, beep, and then it goes right, and it starts right back into a countdown mode again. And I had a watch I was just looking at, which one I was looking at. I think it was the AQS10. You can have this one have a recurring timer up to 10 times. Okay. And now it's the same timer interval. So it's like, if it's 5 minutes, it goes 5 minutes, it beep beeps, and it's already counting down the next 5 minutes. And you can have it do that up to 10 times. So the timer function is something to keep in mind. Now, it's the alarm, timer, dual time, and world time. Okay, so what's the difference? I don't think it makes a big difference. It's just easier to use world time because you're going by cities, and the program inside the watch just automatically adjusts it for the correct time zone. If you're using dual time, you're going to have to set the time. That's my experience with it anyway. So if I'm not right on that one, just put in the comments down there. But as far as I know, dual time is something that you actually set up. Now, some time zones around the world are like on the half hour. They're not an hour change. They're a half hour change. I'm not an expert on it, but what I do know is if you do a lot of world traveling, that is something you want to keep in mind. And some of those watches, like the Casio Royale, the AE1200, they have it all set up, man. That is an awesome world time clock. Or world time watch. It has all the settings in there that you probably need, with the exception of some of those really weird ones where they do half-hour stuff. But there's not many of those. So moving beyond that, so what else is there? Bluetooth. Let's talk about Bluetooth. So that's this GShock right here. I just had somebody ask me today about the GAB 2100 or the GM 2100, and they're going back and forth between the metal version of this or the resin version, the plastic version of it. And I was like, well, it kind of depends on what you're going to use it for. If you're using it for more casual, just kind of work around, doing everyday kind of stuff, then stick with the plastic. If you have any intention of wearing this like to an office, more than just casual, maybe a little bit more than casual, then I think the metal gives you a better profile on the watch, on the wrist. Like, you can just wear it for more occasions. And then I threw this little wrench into his thought process, and I said, oh, by the way, I would go with the Bluetooth Tough Solar version, because you get some functions in here that you can set up on your phone, like an alert. Like, today's my anniversary, and I do have a notification. So there's a notification. There's a little blinking LED or LCD thing on there, and I can go in there and it'll tell me, hey, anniversary, because I typed it into my phone, synced it up in here. That's about as smartwatchy as I've gotten so far since I've canned my other Casio smartwatch, which I don't have out here. I should probably bring that one out here. I just don't use it at all. But the Bluetooth Tough Solar, again, Tough Solar, no maintenance on the battery. It just goes. And I'm telling you, the Pathfinder I've got is going on almost 20 years and no battery change. And I used it all like stopwatch. As a matter of fact, I used the compass and the altimeter function on there, if not monthly, every couple of weeks, with the outdoor stuff that I was doing, and probably more than that during the fall, during the hunting season. So that uses up battery power. So that battery went through the ringer. But Tough Solar is it is all that they talk about. It is worth every penny. So if you're looking for a Casio and you want to start to go maintenance free, start looking at atomic timekeeping, start looking at Tough Solar. Those are the two things that are going to make that watch almost, you just have to put it on. Okay. And the rest of it is just what do you want to do with the watch that's in the modes or the programming of the watch. Something else I think is really important, and this is something that I didn't pick up on, but every time I see it, it's like, oh yeah, I don't like that, and I do like this, and that is the strap. Okay, now everybody knows that watches my channel anyway, that I hate the spacing of the holes on the Casio strap. I think the holes could be just, even 1/3 of a millimeter closer together, get one more hole in here, and it just makes this whole thing fit a little bit more precisely on the wrist. Otherwise, if it doesn't fit like precisely to begin with, like when you put it on, it's like, oh, that's a good fit to begin with. You're either in this kind of a too tight zone or too loose zone back and forth, because your wrist does change sizes during the day based on temperature, based on how much activity you're doing, that kind of thing. It's basically blood flow. All right. So that's the strap, the holes part of it. So I've said that, I don't know, how many watches do I have here? 15. I've probably said that more than 15 times, but that's really not what I'm getting at. It is the inside of the strap. Okay. So when you put this strap on the wrist and you get the pin buckle all set up, this is the thing I think that is an important part to me when it comes down to this. And that is, how easily does this keeper move back and forth? Because what will happen, because this strap, the tag end, if you're familiar with making knots, it's called the tag end. The tag end is constantly wanting to come out this way. And what that does is it starts to push and slide that keeper all the way back down to the buckle. Now, if the keeper is way out here at the end and you bump something, obviously, okay, it's going to pop open like that. Okay, that's not good either. So the idea is that when you put the keeper on here, you want that keeper to keep in place. Okay, you're keeping this down so the tag end doesn't snag on things, obviously. Okay, just like this watch right here. This is the Zellos Hammerhead. But if you look at the way I've got this set up, I have one keeper as far out to the end as possible. And because this one moves around independently, I have this one sort of in the middle, kind of keep that loop down on there. So that's one. You have a smooth on this one. This is the W217. You have a smooth interior. Okay. That means the keeper is going to slide around. Now, the one that I just published today that went out, here it is, the F108. This is a superior strap to the W217 because it has, if you can see those notches on the inside of the strap, I call it a ratcheting system. Okay. It ratchets. In other words, this keeper, we'll put it together. We'll hit that spot. Now watch, like you get it out here and that keeper, it takes a little bit more doing to move that keeper. And I'm telling you, like when you get out doing stuff, the last thing you need is the tag end of your strap sticking out, catching on stuff, or the keeper sliding off the other direction. And now you are one small move away from losing the watch off your wrist. So I highly recommend when you're collecting Casio watches, if they are more than just safe queens, which I'm not sure how many safe queens there are in Casio world, but if it's more than that and you're going to start wearing this, especially for work type stuff, I highly recommend you start looking at the strap and look at what kind of strap is there. Now, what about the pin buckle? Most of them are a piece of crap. They're made out of plastic. They're junk. Now, the G-Shocks are not. They're metal, okay? And here's two examples. Here's the classic square, 5610U square. Great, great Casio. Numbers are a little bit small for my liking, but that's about the only thing on there that I don't really like. But you'll notice that the pin buckle on here is metal. So this can take a beating. Again, this is the GShock Formula. There's a formula that they have for all of them that are qualified as G-Shocks. This has a twin pin buckle. This is the one that just came in today. What is this? The GD350, I think is what it is. Yeah, the GD350. If you're familiar with this watch, let me know in the comments what you think of this watch. I think this is going to dethrone my Big Sky as my, I don't know, rough and tumble type watch where it really protects the crystal, the mineral crystal. It's not a sapphire, but it protects the mineral crystal. Yeah. All right. We'll get back to that one here in a second. So the pin buckle, something to keep in mind. Now the cheap stuff, it's just cheap. Like just get used to it. You're buying a $15 watch. You're going to get a $15 pin buckle. Like it's not going to be anything expensive, and they're tough. I'll tell you what, they have enough flex, and this is an engineering technique. If you make something too brittle, it actually breaks easier. But if you make something that has built-in flex in it, it is much, much harder to break. And a great example of that is when they make a bridge for cars to drive. You don't want that bridge to be stiff and brittle. You want it to flex with vehicle weight. You want it to give. And that just makes it last longer. Now, it can wear out over time, but it's not going to snap. Okay. So there you go. Pin buckle. We got the strap. We talked a little bit about the modes. We haven't talked a little bit about the modes. We've talked a little bit about some of the cool things. I want to talk about displays next. Here's the displays. So there are 3 watches. Far left, this is the AQS 810. This watch right here. This is what I don't like about this watch. It has the ratcheting strap system. It has great lume. It has a really good light for the display, but the display is almost useless. So again, you're wasting battery power on a display that you have a hard time reading. Then in the middle, you have that's the Big Sky, or the W736. Look at the difference in size of the numbers. Okay, now I think that is 420. I think that's like the dual time zone here, because I can see where did I put it? Here it is. I think that's the dual time. No, that's the alarm. So it's on the alarm mode for right now, and the top of that watch is the actual time. But the alarm time is actually what the time would look like if it was on the regular time mode. So the size of the numbers makes a big difference. And on the far right is the WV200, and that one it's nice. It's 200 meters of water resistance. It's got a great strap. I love the red. One of the things that caught my attention was the red, and I didn't pay any attention to the top 2 display windows, because they are so small. So the top, you can see Berlin. So that's Berlin time. And then underneath that is the day date, and then underneath that is the time. And they're just too small, just way too small. And the middle one is the worst. I'll hold this up here. I think you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. It's just do something different. Yeah, I don't know. There's just other ways to manage space on a display. And it just frustrates me that a watch that is this close to being really good has that. And then I come across the cheaper version, Wave Scepter, and you can see the difference in display when it comes down to the time. You can see the times on the what is this one? The 58R. Yeah, this is the 58R. You can see how the 58R has a much bigger time display, but also look at the day date. Way bigger, much more useful. So display, keep an eye out on display. That's something that I learned the hard way when I bought this watch. And when this watch came in, the 200 came in, I was like, oh no. Because I have reading glasses. So it's not only is it too small, even as it's small, but I take the reading glasses off and it's impossible to read the day date, the month and the date. Okay. Just almost impossible to read that. Now you look at the green one over here, the AQ8S10, the AQS810. That display, I don't get it. I don't see what they're trying to do. They've got this countdown, this 5-second interval window on the far right. I don't know what that's doing. Get rid of that. Put some more information in there. Make the numbers bigger. There's a lot of cool stuff about that watch that I like, but it's just not. It's not clicking for me. So display is really important. And here's another. This is the same thing. That's the Big Sky on the left, and that's the W200 on the right. And you can see the difference. Look at the date and the day. Sunday, SU, 5/14, and look at the 5/14 Sunday. Like you got to pay attention to that stuff. Okay. So here, something else to keep in mind too is the Casio makes a bunch of different models. Obviously, there are like hundreds of them. Hey, Infotech Networks. All right. All right, just join now. Any forecast podcast? I was just on Casio's website. I'm just going to pause for a second. Look, he had a question about GShock's new stuff coming out, and there was one that I can't remember. There is a new watch coming out, and it's on their website. It's under new releases, and if I remember right, there was just one that's coming out soon. I don't know when. I don't spend a lot of time on Casio's website. I end up doing reviews on a bunch of other stuff as well, but at the same time, I know there's one coming out, and I was trying to racking my brain right now trying to think of it, but it's there. It's on the website. I'll see if I can pull it up here before we end the broadcast. But yeah. So back to the different styles. So you have the F91W Classic. It's been around for decades. To the right of that is the W217, and above that is the F108. There are a lot of similarities out there. So keep your mind open to that possibility that there may be a model that scratches the itch you're looking for better than another model does. Okay. The F91W is a legend. And I think the only reason it sells that much is because it's a legend. So yeah, you're welcome. So I think be careful about that, you know, and I knew that going into it, that I was not a fan of the F91W, but at the same time, I was like, I've got to have it in hand to do the review. Don't do the review from afar. That's one of my rules about watch reviews, is like, you've got to do it in hand. It's a small watch. The strap is actually small, too small for my wrist. And the numbers are just too frail looking. Like, they're not bold enough. So those are the things you find out. And then you look at the W217, which is directly to the right. It's like, oh, that is way different. The display is way more bold. It's way more contrasty. You get 50 meters of water resistance, where the 91, you only get, 30. So keep in mind, there are these models, these subtle differences between models. And that's why I'm finding right now, after I've gotten to about 10 Casios. Hey, Chad, I'll be getting to that question here in just a second. So I've got about 10 Casios in my collection. And then I started looking like, oh, this one is a very similar one, like the AE1200. The AE1200, I purchased that one and gave it away because, again, it uses the display real estate inefficiently. But the WS1600, exact same case, exact same strap. The interior, organization is different, obviously. But it does more of what I'm looking for. Not quite as much as I'm looking for, but it does more than the AE1200. And certainly the display, the number display, is way bigger. Check out the review on that one. And I think you'll see what I'm talking about when it comes down to just two exact same cases, and they lay them out differently. And it's just way different for me, guy with reading glasses. What do I think about the Casio Forester? I like it. I've had a couple of people ask me about that. I like the Casio Forester. For some reason, I'm just stuck on some of these digital watches, these styles that I'm in right now. I just haven't gotten to the Casio Forester yet, but I do like that one. I think there's some good qualities about that one. It is not a, out of sight, out of mind. Like, I'm not interested. I'm not into that. That watch is not in that category for me. So, Chad, I think that Casio Forester's got some good things going for it. I haven't looked at it for a while. This was like a month ago, 6 weeks ago. Someone brought that up to my screen, looked it up, and yeah, I do remember the Casio Forester being one that sticks in my mind as being a possibility for a review. Yeah, Chris, check it out. Go online. And, this is where, if you have multiple Casios, you'll start to have a reference. Part of what I'm doing as a reviewer is I'm hanging on to certain watches as reference points for other watches. So when I look online and I see, this watch is so many more millimeters bigger than the F91. Okay. So I'm not going to get rid of the F91. I'm going to hang on to it. It's a reference point. Okay. For a lot of reasons. It's legendary to begin with. So it's a reference for legendary Casio technology that goes back decades, but just the dimensions, the programming, the light, and honestly, you're welcome, Chad. And honestly, I want to know what a bad light looks like so I can compare it to a good light. And for $15 or less, actually less than $15, I'm okay with that. It's a good reference. But there are a bunch here that I'm no longer going to hang on to. So if you go to my website, realidealgear.com, I have a bunch of Casios that are, like, I want to say they're almost 50% off from what the brand new version would be online. So check that out. I'm going to put a few more online. I just can't keep all of these. I'm keeping some of them for references. I'm keeping some of them because I actually do wear them a lot. What are the ones I wear a lot? I wear the Square a lot. I do wear the Casio a bit. Where's the big Sky? Come on here. Where is he? All right. Now, a compass on here. You want to make a Casio watch, an instant outdoor watch. Go get a watch compass, throw it on. Now, these watch compasses are 22 millimeters wide, so they fit really well on the mid-sized Casios, like the Big Sky. They don't move around hardly at all, so you can slide that on there, no problem. That's another one I like. The Greyman, legend. You do need to hack out the timer function on here. The alarm functions on this one are awesome. 100 meters of water resistance. Great display. I love that watch. It's great. This is one that surprised me because I'm going through the ones that I actually wear. Okay. This is the one that surprised me. Where's the other one? I got the F201 or 200 to start with, and I can't stand it because it has that same circular waste of space up here, much like that waste of space on the W200. Okay. You see the similarities here? So it's already bitter in my mouth as far as just like, I'm not a fan of this. So then I spent a little more time. So this is an example of how not to do this. And I found the F201. Yeah, F201, F200, almost identical in every way, but you can see the difference that it makes on the display. I do wear the F201, not a lot. Okay. I'm wearing the other ones more, admittedly. The F201, I think, yeah, this is brand new. I have not worn this one because I was going to do a torture test on this one. I never got around to finishing the torture test. So that one's brand new. It's online. I pulled it out to show you guys. The F108, I like it. All right. I just have other ones that I'll be wearing it instead of this. This is going to go out on the store and get sold. What are the other ones? Let's see here. The F217. If there's ever a person out there that wants the F91, get the 217 instead. Way better than the F91. All right. That to me, this is the antidote to the F91 is this one, or the F201, another square, great. It's got great functions. And all of these have lights that are about 150,000 times better than the F91, if you catch my drift. Okay. What is the one I wear the most? It is the Pathfinder, because I not only do the work that I do, which is lawn care maintenance, but I also do outdoor hunting and hiking, stuff like that. So this has everything on it. So I'm going to go real quick through this. Let's see here. There's the F108. That's the review. You can see the ratcheting strap in the background. Huge plus. If you get that on there, that keeper doesn't move around hardly at all. Let's go through this. That's this one right here. This is the Pathfinder, the PRW 6600Y. Okay. Analog digital, has everything. And you can see that the dial, the crystal on there has been pitted, partly because I was wearing it when I was welding my trailer, and some of the slab came up and hit the crystal. I shouldn't have done that, but I did. So you get the idea. Like when I wear a Casio watch, I wear it because, you know, it goes through the day with me. I have other watches for when I'm not doing welding. This is what it looks like with lume. So the Casio, the Pathfinder does incredible. So on the one side, you see that it has just plain lume, and then when you hit the light button, it lights up the display, and that also affects the numbers on the dial. But all the functions on this Casio Pathfinder, I'm going to go through them real quick. Okay, it's got the classic stopwatch, alarm, timer, world time. Okay, world time. You can see the cities around the dial. Those are all the cities that are programmed into the watch. Okay. Oh man, I should pull this up here while I'm doing this. Stopwatch, timer, alarm, and I have 5 alarms. It has the timer. It has the atomic timekeeping mode, and then it has the outdoor functions: barometer, altimeter, temperature, compass. The compass works, and this is the reason why I got this watch way back in the early 90s, mid 90s, was for the compass. So this watch, and it's 100 meters of water resistance. It has a relatively thin profile. When you start looking at a watch, okay, this is the one that just came in the mail today. When you start looking at the watches that are out there, GShock, this is the GShock on my right. Okay, that's this guy right here. Look how much taller. Look at the profile on this. This is where I think the G-Shocks are a bit overrated, maybe a lot overrated. 100 meters of water resistance. Where are you going to go more than 100 meters underwater? Where do you need more than 100 meters of water resistance to go swimming and do that kind of thing? So this is just, it's more than plenty. And I love this watch. I wear this watch whenever I go out to a place I may not be totally familiar with what's around me. This goes on my wrist. I've got a compass. I know what the weather is going to be like, what the weather's turning into with the barometer, which I think is really important. And then the other functions on there, it's like, oh, tough solar, atomic timekeeping. This is a zero maintenance watch. It's awesome. So Casios, man, better models out there, Chris. There are so many better models. Let's share this. Let's get some of these comments out here. Yeah. Yeah, the F91. I am not knocking the legendary status of it. I think it is, it's one of those watches that will never go away. But at the same time, it's like, farting in your jeans on a date. Like it doesn't go away. That's the best example I can come up with. Like I don't know why people buy it. I don't get it. But at the same time, it's been around for decades. So that much I get. All right. So Casios, it is a rabbit hole. And you're going to end up buying more than one. If you end up buying more than one, you'll find that buying two or three, the third or fourth watch that you buy, the Casio that you buy, is probably better suited for your needs than the first two that you bought. It just happens that way most of the time. All right. But spend the time on the research end, and you spend less time trying to resell the watches you don't want. So, all right, let's move on to the next topic, flashlights, real quick. This we talked about in the last live stream. So if you haven't seen the last live stream, check it out. I did talk a little bit more about this with EDC and flashlights. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but at the same time, this is where I need help from viewers out there. So pay attention. If you got the knack for finding flashlights, I'm wondering if there's a flashlight out there that fits this description. So on the image on the left to right in the green, that is the Ace Beam poke light, and then you have below that is the Olight baton. Below that is the Rovivon A8. Okay, and then the rest of them are listed there. Some of the things that I'm looking for in an EDC are compact size. So the Olight, the one that has kind of a blue rim around the lens of the flashlight, that's the one that I have in my pocket almost all the time. Okay. Now I have swapped that one out for the Ace Beam H16. It's the one behind it that has a 90-degree light on it with the top switch in the top. I've been carrying that in my pocket. And the reason why I'm carrying that in my pocket is because it is slimmer, and that one can use a AA battery. If the lithium ion battery wears out on me and I don't have a way to recharge it, I can swap in the AA, lower lumens, but at the same time I can swap it in and get some light. Same thing with the poke light to the right. So those two Ace Beams, the poke light and the H16, are both AA compatible flashlights. Great for ADC. You're going to find a AA battery just about everywhere. Okay. Through night, this is one Johan had that, and that if you saw that earlier, if you're here earlier, he had one in his EDC carrier. I encourage you to go back in time on this video and look at it. I think his is a little bit better than this one. It's slimmer. It seems like it just seems like it's better set up than this one. The one thing I like about this through night is, let's see if I can show this, pull back here, is that you can increase the brightness and it gets super bright. It's a variable light. It's not stepped, okay? Which means there is no high, medium, low. It is everything in between high, medium, and low. All right. So it's a totally variable light. Kind of cool. Magnetic tail cap. It's awesome. Now, the Nebo swivel, that's this guy right here. Okay. Just picked this one up because I already had the Nightcore MT21C. I already had this one. And this was one that I was contemplating carrying when I was on patrol. And it's just a little bit too bulky, a little too much stuff going on, right? So this to me was like, I need to get this in a smaller size. I saw this online. I thought, okay, I'll give this a shot. Magnetic tail cap. You'll notice that the whole list up there, all but one, has a magnetic tail cap. And the reason being is if you're ever in a situation, mostly for me, when I'm in my truck and I need to have more light behind my truck than the reverse lights will provide, I put my flashlight on the tailgate and turn it on high, and I've got more than enough light to back up. What I like about these is I can do that very same thing, but I can adjust where the light goes, whether it's 90 degrees on the side of the truck or out away, or if it's off the tailgate, I can direct it left and right because of the rotation of the light. Like this rotating head is a huge deal. So here's my request. I need magnetic tail cap. I need about 800 looms out of this thing. And I want a swivel head on, but I'm looking for something the size of this guy right here. If this had the swivel head on it, this would be the gold standard right here in my book for an EDC flashlight. dual two-way clip. You got the magnetic tail cap. You can use both lithium ion. You can use AA battery. This one, I think, with the lithium ion, it goes out to about 800 looms, high sevens, if not. The on-off switch is up here on the top. Not a huge fan of that, but you can see on the swivel, it's on the side. It's on the side of the head that swivels. So this right here with a swivel, somebody let me know. That's what I'm looking for. But these are the kind of flashlights on this picture that I like to carry for everyday carry. The swivel, probably the biggest one. Obviously, the night core it's there basically to show the rotating head on there. I don't carry that as a pocket carry. I do carry that with gear. So in a sense, it would be everyday carry if I had my tier 1 or tier 2 with me, which is that pouch. That would be a great addition to that pouch. So check out my tier 2 carry video on that, because I talk about that. This would be a great one for that pouch. The Rovivon, I have this by my bedside all the time. This is a great little flashlight. Do I carry it in the pocket? Yeah, I do. I just haven't gotten used to it. I think it's just a little too small for my fingers. I prefer something a little more the size of like the Olight. Okay. It just seems more substantial, and you're going to get more life out of the battery, just a bigger battery. But I do like the Rovivon. I think this is 600 lumens on high. It lasts about 30 seconds on high, but 30 seconds is a long time. There's the flashlights. There's my request. Let me know what you think. If there was one out, man, I would strongly, that it's probably going to be hundreds of dollars because it's such a unique thing. That's one that I'm really looking to get. So those are my everyday carries, with the exception of the night core on the far right. And there's a few of the things I carry with. That knife down there is awesome. That is the, I just got it. What's the name of this one? The Monicala. Great knife. Talked about that. That's actually coming up on a video that'll be released here I think it's next week. All right, moving on. Cold weather gear. All right. So preface this with, I'll give you a little bit of my background. So originally from Minnesota, do a lot of outdoor stuff, just outdoor stuff. I spent more time probably in high school, college especially, away from my house, my parents' house, out in the woods than I did anywhere else. So I learned a few things the hard way, mostly. I would go and it's like, oh, it looks like a really warm jacket, or those are really warm pants. I'm going to get those. And what I find out is that whenever you try to condense a lot of benefits in clothing, this is just going to be about clothing. When you condense it into one piece of clothing, that one piece of clothing becomes a major problem, especially when you start moving and doing activities. Okay. So when you're dealing with cold weather, you absolutely want to have layers, and the layers that you have are really important. Rule number one, especially in the mountains, cotton is rotten. Always, always, always. You never want to wear cotton. I don't have any cotton on me when I go out in the mountains ever. I'll have merino wool. Okay. I'll have wool blend, polyester wool blend, but I will not have cotton. I won't even have cotton blend. Anything. Cotton is just absorbing. It absorbs moisture at a high level, and it does not get rid of it fast enough. Okay. So this is the underlayer. Most everybody understands what this does, but let me give you the stats on this. This will increase your warmth by about 30%, which means when you put polyester style socks right next to your skin, your warmth in your boots are going to last about 30% longer. Okay. Same thing with the shirt. So I've got in the middle, there's a black shirt. That's actually an insulated polyester shirt by Under Armour. And I wore that on patrol because we didn't, you go out and patrol, you've got your vest, your plate carrier, you got all your gear on there. You've got your shirt under that. And then you've got your undershirt under that. You generally are not wearing a jacket because you've got to get access to what's on your vest. And you need access to stuff on your belt, on your duty belt. So wearing a jacket is just not preferable. And so you have to find ways to wear stuff that are warm, but not bulky, warm, but not that's layered to a degree. So that Under Armour shirt was great. I wore that all the time. I hardly ever wore a jacket. And this is out on patrol for 8 hours overnight, here in Western Montana, out in the mountains. Now, if it's really cold, yeah, you put the patrol jacket on, and you got to take care of yourself, especially if you're at like an accident traffic scene where you're outside, for maybe doing an hour of traffic, trying to get people to move through and keep everybody safe. So But that Under Armour, that undergarment is super important. No cotton ever. Do not ever put cotton as your bottom layer. Always, always, always go artificial. Polyester is great. There's all kinds of different blends out there. I use polyester wool blend socks all the time. I think it's great. You get kind of the best of both worlds, because wool, even when it's wet, it has insulating properties to it. So, and it doesn't have the same smell. Sometimes polyester can get a smell and it's hard to get out. Okay. Wool doesn't necessarily do that. So there's your undergarments. Okay. And the pants, the long johns, or the pant part of it's on the bottom left. Same deal. All right. Next layer. This is what goes on top of all of that. All right. So I'm going to have the sweater is actually a rayon polyester. It's totally artificial. There's not even any wool in that. It is just a fleece type shirt that's totally artificial. And then I got socks there. Those are merino wool socks. It's a blend. And then on top of my sweater is a neck gaiter. And this is really important because I find that I retain a lot more heat with the neck gaiter. So if you have a neck gaiter, use it. I think they're really important. Soft shell, that's a term that's used a lot, quite frankly, with mountaineering. But soft shell is a type of fabric that has some somewhat water repellency qualities to it. And there's a little bit of maybe insulating qualities to it as well. Soft shell jackets, soft shell pants, they tend to be a little bit more on the warmer side, but they also breathe really well. So you're going to have, most of them are made out of Gore-Tex. They're expensive. They're not real cheap, but they are great. So you put that polyester with an artificial liner underneath, which is going to increase your heat retention by about 30% because you're going to get rid of the moisture. Moisture is what gets you. Okay. I'm going to tell you a quick story when I get through this slide. So you put these on over that, and you have the sweater on over that base layer, those socks on over the polyester socks. And then you have that neck gaiter on, and then you put your hat on because you've got 70% of your heat goes out the top of your head, which is, by the way, one of the best ways to regulate heat is with whatever your head covering is. Sometimes you can't because your ears take the brunt of it, but the head covering is another good one. So here's a quick story. So we're climbing Mount Rainier, and we're in a group, and long story short, we're climbing into a blizzard. We kind of knew this going into it. We're going to try to get to the summit before this blizzard hit the top. That was the plan. So we left at like 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning to go summit at sunrise. We get 1,000 feet from the summit, and we stopped because the wind was unbelievable. This is where the stuff in Hollywood shows you what it's like, but it is to actually be there it's unreal. Yeah, Infotech. It's just a common neck gaiter. Actually, this neck gaiter, real quick question on the neck gaiter, 50 SPF. So it has sun protection for you. So whatever neck gaiter you get on there, make it have SPF, because if you turn it into a hat, it gives you sun protection as well. Okay. So I highly recommend any neck gaiter out there that also has 50 SPF on it. Okay. So we're 1,000 feet from the summit, and we stopped to get hydrated. And I set my pack down because I grabbed some food out of there, which, by the way, was frozen because on the way up, it just froze. Put my pack down to get the food out. I start eating the food a little bit, sucking on it, kind of, and my pack starts to go uphill. That's how strong the wind was. And I didn't have a lot of stuff in my pack, but at the same time, I've never seen a backpack go uphill before. And so I look over to my right, and I can see the guides are talking, and I look kind of close to the guides. There's these two guys from Oklahoma, and this is their first time, I think, in seriously cold weather, especially in the mountain, and they were shivering. So this is pre-hypothermia. Whenever you start shivering uncontrollably, this is the very first step of pre-hypothermia, and hypothermia will kill you fast because you start losing your mental capacity. And these guys start shivering, and I'm like, oh no, we're going to stop. We're going to turn around. So the guys, they talk around a little bit. One of the guides takes off, starts heading up the mountain a little bit further. He comes back. He says, yeah, there's another group ahead of us. They're coming down. So I was like, this is kind of like the bowling ball effect. Like the direction the bowling ball is going is the direction you're going to go. And we're going down. The takeaway on this is you have to regulate heat. Cold weather, the thing that cools you off the fastest is overheating. Overheating is when you sweat, and when you sweat, you've got water that evaporates, and water that evaporates will cool you off faster than just about anything out there. And that's what happened to these guys from Oklahoma. They did not regulate their heat. And when they got to where we stopped and we stopped working, our bodies slowed down, our temperatures start to lower a little bit. That sweat started to cool them off faster than it was when they were walking, climbing up the mountain. So you have got to regulate heat. And that's why layers are so important, because you can take a layer off and it's not a big deal. That's why buying a really warm jacket is a problem usually, because how do you monitor the heat retention of just one clothing item that is so powerful at retaining so much? So layers. Now, if you have jackets that have different layers to them, you can unzip them. That's another thing, pit zips and all that stuff, hip zips, pit zips. Those are all great things for monitoring and regulating heat. So this is the layer that you probably don't move when you're hiking or climbing. Okay. This is the layer that's on you all the time. The rest of this is stuff that you regulate. And I'm going to show you the next one. All right. So this is the next layer. Okay. And the first one, this is the oh crap pants. All right. And you can see here on the kind of the left-hand side, there's a big long zipper. Those are zippers that go all the way down the side of your leg so that you can put these on no matter what kind of boots you have on. And these are basically rain pants. Okay. Now remember, we've got these soft shell pants on, and underneath those we have the polyester underlayer, right? And then this goes on the outside. Now this is a vapor barrier because this is rain gear. All right. So if you put these on, this is going to really retain heat, but it's going to retain all that moisture. Again, moisture is what cools you off the fastest. But if you have the zippers on the side like that, you can regulate the heat. You can also get rid of some of that water vapor. So those go on typically when things start to get really cold and windy. You put them on your legs first and on your upper body second. Okay. Just part of it's just, it takes more time to do that. It's just harder to do. Now the upper body, you'll see a puffy jacket, a light puffy jacket, and that's a down puffy jacket, which can be compressed into something you could literally stick in your front pocket of your pants. All right. So it's just another light layer of insulation. Now that does nothing for wind. Wearing that jacket in heavy wind is terrible. All right. Now, if you put this orange soft shell over the top of that, now you've got a little bit of rain protection, because that's what soft shell does. You've got a little bit of insulating power on there. But what you're really doing is you're preventing the wind from penetrating that down jacket and penetrating that fleece shirt or sweater. Okay. So it becomes a wind barrier. Whoops, wrong direction. That becomes a wind barrier. It's a pretty good wind barrier, but at the same time, it allows water vapor to escape much more easily. There's also pit zips on here for regulating heat, so you don't have to take that jacket off right away. Whatever gear you get, you want to have the ability to regulate heat without necessarily having to take it off, because that's time where you stop and it can be hard. Now, when you're climbing mountains, the worst is the pants, because you've got crampons on your boots, which are steel spikes. And so that's another reason why you want zippers that go all the way up the side of it goes all the way up to the waistband. So those are super easy to put on. Okay. All right. At the same time, those are rain pants. Water will not penetrate those pants. So if I kneel down, I'm not going to get my kneecap wet, which when you're on a mountain, you are monitoring anything that gets wet, because whatever gets wet is the first thing to freeze. Now, if it's on the inside of your jacket, yeah, you are going to freeze. So you got to monitor that. All right. Last but not least, this is when you stop, and then when things get really serious. All right. When you stop, you put on a big puffy jacket. This is that big orange one. It's heavy down, or it's a lot of down. I think this is 800 fill. So it's a very good quality down jacket. It's an expensive jacket, but at the same time, this is what keeps the heat in. So when we stopped on the near the top of Mount Rainier, and that wind was howling, we immediately put our pack. This is what we did right away: get the pack off, open the pack, put your puffy jacket on, zip up, put that down, and then you start to eat. Okay, because you want to try to maintain all of that good heat that you have. You've been losing a lot of that moisture along the way as well, because you haven't been trying to trap it. Now you want to try to trap some of that because you're not moving as much. So you're lowering these mountains of heat down to something that's manageable while you're climbing. But then when it gets cold out, you're raising that heat level up, so everything kind of stays as even as possible. You try not to sweat. That's the goal. The easiest thing here to say is you don't want to sweat. Now, when things get really bad, and this is what happened when we were standing there, some guys were starting to put their rain jacket on. And that's really what that is. That yellow jacket's a rain jacket. It seals everything in. Okay. It keeps the snow off, any moisture that melts because of the heat that comes off you, the radiant heat that comes off you. It doesn't get you wet. All right. It stays on the outside. Now on the inside, all of that water vapor is going to condense on the outside, on the inside of that shell. So it's a double-edged sword. So it's just all about management. So when you're climbing, one of the things I find is that I spent more time thinking about my body temperature and what I'm doing. When things were easy, there was no technical stuff. It was just all about like, I don't want to sweat. I want to maintain. I don't want that perspiration feeling you kind of get in your head right before you start to perspire. I don't want that to happen. And so I was constantly ready. I was adjusting zippers. I was opening things up, shutting things down. So anyway, that is the warmest setup. Now, I'm not talking about hats and gloves and boots. There's all kinds of stuff out there that's more specific to mountaineering. There's stuff specific to hunting. There's all kinds of stuff. The bottom line is this: stay dry externally and stay dry internally. And the internal stuff is this system. It's what you have against your skin that transports water away from you. Okay. So that your skin doesn't feel wet. And this stuff, by the way, dries really fast. Then you want some semi-insulated, again, still moving that moisture further away. You want it to evaporate and get away from your body because that's what cools you off the fastest. Now we're getting into some sealing stuff in, warmth, that kind of, you have options there, and then really warm stuff. So that's the cold weather system that I use. And I'm telling you right now, you just put polyester liner socks on your feet, you will get 30% more warmth on whatever shoes or boots you're wearing. I guarantee it. Okay. I've deer hunted enough in Minnesota to know that when I wear the right inner sock with the right outer sock in the boot, okay, that inner sock was what changed it for me. It's like, oh my goodness, my feet feel so much better because they're not wet. Okay, gets that stuff away from you. So let's see, Chris, neck gaiters, really amazing how much warmth. Yes, that, remember your head, 70% of the heat comes off your head, right? Well, what transports that heat? It's your neck. It comes from your body through your neck up to your head, right? So this is another part that you can conserve heat or you can get rid of heat. Okay. Taking a hat off when you can is a great way to kind of cool yourself down. Okay. Take your hat off, take your gloves off. Okay. Open up the zips on your jacket, those kind of things to cool yourself off. Do not allow yourself to sweat when you're out in the really cold stuff. All right. That's when things get serious fast. And I'm telling you, these guys from Oklahoma, they started shivering within minutes of stopping. That's how fast it happened. We were in, I can only guess what the miles per hour, but 40, 50 plus mile an hour winds. Okay. And we weren't even at the top. We were kind of on the leeward side, making our way around to the summit. And it was just going to get worse. And it was literally a blizzard. It was one of those movie type moments. But that's how fast it can happen. Minutes. And you are in pre-hypothermia, which means it just got serious really fast. All right. Yeah. If you don't have a lot of hair, I'm with you, Chris. Okay. We don't have a lot of extra insulating help. Yeah. You layer. Same thing with the hats, you know. Oh, something else I want to mention, and this is important. You'll notice something on these pieces of gear right here. Each jacket has a hood. Okay. The lightweight down puffy, the soft shell has a hood, and both of these also have a hood because that maintains the heat from your body up the back of the neck and around the head. Okay. If you don't have a hood, this is a spot for all that heat to evaporate or dissipate away from your body, and your head doesn't quite get enough of it. So if you really want to keep yourself warm, jackets with hoods, that was something that I know the guys were really big on. You ever buy a jacket for mountaineering, make sure it has a hood. Okay. Now, problem for me is vision. You know, you turn your head side left to right, but there's different adjustments that a lot of the good jackets have up in the hood so that you can have good peripheral vision. And of course, in this case, I had to have a hood that would go around my helmet, climbing helmet. So, all right, there we go. Thank you everybody for showing up. This is great. A lot of good questions. Let's see, make sure I've got these questions. Neck gaiters, yes. Good. I don't have a link for the neck gaiter. Just a real, go out and find them. Buff. Another term for it is a buff, but I get a buff that has an SPF 50 on it because you can use it summertime, wintertime, it protects your skin from sunburns and that, especially if you're at high altitude. You start going up in altitude, it's amazing how fast you can burn, and you don't even know it because it's cool out. Okay. Everything else. Yeah, check the Casio website for, there's a new release coming. I'm not sure. I can't remember what it is. I just saw it either yesterday or this morning, and I just briefly looked at it, and I was busy thinking about something else. So I just saw there was one coming out. But check the Casio website. So thank you guys for being here. Check out the reviews. Also, the website has a bunch of watches for sale at realidealgear.com. So if you're interested in Casio watches or other watches, you'll see some, I think, some good deals out there. I'm trying to just move some stuff because it's getting to be a bit much. So you guys take care. Have a Merry Christmas. Christ is the reason for the season. And we'll see you guys in January for the next live stream. Take care.